Kundi Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. Navadip Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Purusha Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Kanaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Kinamini. Namaste Krishna Vidaya Prabhupada Siddharthani. Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Kinamini. Narayana Namaskritya Narom Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Gujirayat Nashta Prayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. I think I'm a little bit forward than that, but let me just check to be sure. Canto 3, Chapter 20. According to the schedule, I'm supposed to be beginning from text 38, not 36. Yeah, okay. So text 38 first. Prahasya bhava gambiram jigantyatmanam atmanam kantya sasaja bhagavan gandhavapsar rasamganam prahasya bhava gambiram jigantyatmanam atmanam kantya sasaja bhagavan Gandhavapsarasam ganam prahasya bhava gambiram jigrantyatmanam atmanam kantya sasaja bhagavan Gandhavapsarasam ganam. Hare Krishna. Please chant.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prahasya bhava gambhiram jigranti atmanam atmana kantaya shasraja bhagavan gandharva apsharam ganam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
रहस्य भावा गम्भीरं जिग्रान्त्यात्मनाम् आत्मना कान्त्या ससर्ज भगवान् गन्धर्वाप्सस् अप्सरासां गणाम्.
Hare Krishna. Prahasya bhava gambhiram jigrantyatmanam atmana kantya sasarja bhagavan gandharva apsarasam ganan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay. So word for word, Prahasya, smiling, Avagambiram, with a deep purpose, Gigantya, understanding, Atmanam, himself, Atmana, by himself, Kantya, by his loveliness, Sasaja, created, Bhagavan, the worshipful Lord Brahma, Gandharva, the celestial musicians, Apsarasam, and of the heavenly dancing girls, Ganan, the hosts of. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the hosts of Gandharvas and Apsaras. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The musicians in the upper planetary systems are called Gandharvas, and the dancing girls are called Apsaras. After being attacked by the demons and evolving a form of a beautiful woman in the twilight, Brahma next created Gandharvas and Apsaras. Music and dancing employed in sense gratification are to be accepted as demoniac. But the same music and dancing, when employed in glorifying the Supreme Lord as kirtan, are transcendental, and they bring about a life completely fit for spiritual enjoyment. Text 39. Vishasaja tanudam vai jyotanam kantimat jyotnam kanti matim priyam tadiva chadada pitya vishwavasu purogama. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved form of moonlight. Vishwavasu and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it. Text 40. Shrishtvabhuta pisachanscha bhagavan atmatandina digvasasu mukta keshan vikshya chamila layad drisho. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The glorious Brahma next evolved from his sloth, the ghosts and fiends. But he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered. Report by Srila Prabhupada. Ghosts and mischievous hobgoblins are also the creation of Brahma. They are not false. All of them are meant for putting the conditioned soul into various miseries. They are understood to be the creation of Brahma under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Text 41. Jagrihustad vishrishtam tam Jimbranakyam tanum prabhu Vidam Indriya Vikledo Yaya Bhute Sudeshate Eno Chistanda Sayanti Tam Unmadam Pachakshate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of the body thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma, the creator of the living entities. This is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity. Report by Srila Prabhupada. The disease of insanity or being haunted by ghosts takes place in an unclean state of existence. Here it is stated that when a man is fast asleep and saliva flows from his mouth and he remains unclean, ghosts then take advantage of his unclean state and haunt his body. In other words, those who drool while sleeping are considered unclean and are subject to be haunted by ghosts or to go insane. Text 42, and this is the last one. Ujashwantam Mahamana Manyamana Atmanam Bhagavan Aja Sadhyan Ganan Priti Ganan Bharukshena Srijat Prabhu. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, The worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own invisible form, from his navel, the hosts of Sadhyas and Pitas. Report by Srila Prabhupada. The Sadhyas and Pitas are invisible form of departed souls, and they are also created by Brahma. Oma Gena Timiranyasya Gyana Gena Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Scha. Sri Pasagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Scha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhve Eva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Time. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravana Pachari Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Satayani. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachise Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Dimavya Diveta Vishundaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So the translations again for Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 20, Text 38. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma, then involved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the hosts of Gandharvas and Apsaras. Text 39. After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved form of moonlight. Vishvabasu and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it. Text 40. The glorious Brahma then evolved from his sloth, the ghosts and fiends, but he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their heads scattered. Text 41. The ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of the body thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma, the creator of the living entities. This is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity. Text 42. Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of living entities, evolved from his own invisible form from his navel, the hosts of Sadhyas and Pitas. Hare Krishna. So it seems from what's being discussed here in these 5 texts, from text 38 through 42, clearly Lord Brahma is creating the different types of bodies, the more empowered types of bodies compared to us human beings. Those that are in the, those that would be stationed in the heavenly planets, and then others too that would cause all kinds of problems. Those are usually stationed in the lower planets system, below us in the middle planetary system. In any case, as the Lord was creating them, they immediately sprang into action based on their character, their behavior. Mm. So as 38, text 38 talks about, with a laugh full of deep significance, mm, the worshipful Brahma then evolved the hosts of Gandharvas and Apsaras. So those are in the heavenly planets, and they usually are the ones that are involved in music and dance. The Gandharvas are musicians, Apsaras are dancers. And as we know probably by now, there are some of those who, after staying in the heavenly planets for a while, they would come to medium planetary systems like the Earth. Mm. And if it was a Gandharva that came to the Earth as a musician, they're already a musician, and since the subtle body takes the soul to the next existence, when they come, the mind and intelligence, and therefore the ability to be good musicians, comes with them. And that explains why some of the musicians on the earth here are absolutely, in the class by themselves. Nobody seems to be able to compose as easily and make some really um, intricate type of musical arrangement like they can. Mm. And especially if they come and early in their lives, they start involving themselves in what their abilities were in the heavenly planets, then everybody gets surprised. Very, very surprised. How a little boy or little girl can play piano like that? We start questioning that. It's the background that they came from. They may well have come from a heavenly planet, or they may have been doing that on a planet that's not heavenly, but that was the profession they were involved in the previous life. And so it came with the subtle body. That ability is with the subtle body because everything is stored. Lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes people have living entities have gone through here. It's all stored in the subconscious, as we call it, that part of the mind. So it's not surprising. The purport says the musicians in the upper planetary systems are called Gandharvas, and the dancing girls are called Apsaras, as we indicated earlier. So after being attacked by the demons, see, when Lord Brahma created the demons, they came after him, wanting sexual relation. And so, of course, Lord Brahma, being the high level and even the devotee of the Lord, as he was, these demons were not going to get their way, but they tried. And so he had to distract them by evolving a form, as Sri Prabhupada says here, of a beautiful woman in the twilight. And that took their attention. Even when it came to the churning of the milk ocean, and the Lord Vishnu, changed himself into a very, 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 very attractive woman. The demons, who were being very difficult in terms of taking the nectar, which would give immortality, then changed the attention to the woman. And they just said, oh, you divide this nectar as you like among us. So demons are like that. They are attracted by lust. So lust is a lower form of, as we have a higher nature and have a lower nature. So lust is in lower nature. And demons are very lusty. So we have to be careful because here in this, on the earth that we're in, products are being sold to us using that particular feeling of lust. Products are being advertised like that. I remember one time, Chanamari Swami teaching a class, and he told us something that happened to him when he went to a store. Mm. And at that time, he was using a lighter because it was more convenient. He travels and he has to travel different places. And when you have to light, for pujas, a ghee lamp or incense, and those things, you have to have that. So he kept a small lighter with him, and the lighter went out. It wasn't effective anymore. So he went to the store to get another lighter. Hmm. And as he put it, he saw many different brands of lighters, and he wanted a good one. So he asked the person at the counter, the clerk, um, so which one of these lighters are the best one? And the man answered to him, well, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. But this other lighter here, this particular lighter, with a picture of a half-naked woman, is the one that many people seem to pick up and pay for and buy. Hmm. And so Tanamari's family questioned him a little further because he wasn't going to take one, something that's going to remind him of lust. Questioned him a little further, and then the guy said, actually, in my opinion, they all work well. So then Tanamari's family understood that it was because the picture of a naked, half-naked, beautiful woman was on that particular lighter that people were taking that more than others. So this is the planet that people usually tend to associate lust with their happiness, their sense gratification. It's all lust. But we know by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada explaining to us, the lust will never take us out of this place. It will never take us out of this place. We have to transform that energy into devotional service. Then we have a good chance of going back home and having real, real happiness, not the ones that are here on this particular earth. So this place is not our home. And as you get older, you realize that it's better that this place is not our home because the body begins also to give you trouble on top of everything else that you have to deal with. The body also starts breaking down. So you think, no, if the body's like this, I don't want another body this way anymore, which is like that falls apart. So that then gives more impetus for taking the whole process of devotion service seriously so you can go back home. Because going back home means we don't take another physical body, not even a subtle body, subtle body anymore. All of that's finished. And then it's replaced with eternal lifestyle full of knowledge and eternal happiness. As the cowherd boys and the cowherd girls really serve Krishna, but in the service of Krishna, they are enjoying like anything. You can't get any better than that. So anyway, in the heavenly planets, Gandharvas and Apsaras, Srila Prabhupada are saying that music and dancing employed in sense gratification is to be accepted as demoniac. We know now that even when people go to the nightclubs and there's some dancing, usually it is all with the mentality of lust. All with the mentality of lust, all the different steps and whatever that they've learned about dancing that they try to do is all based on lust. How to get the other person lusty for the partner that they're dancing with. That is a mentality. And the music that supplies that, the music doesn't have any lyrics or words in there that praise the Supreme Personality of Godhead. None. So Srila Prabhupada has really helped us by taking us away from going to, even thinking about going to those kinds of places. So he comes right out and says, that kind of music for sense gratification is to be looked at as demoniac. But the same music and dancing, when employed in glorifying Supreme Lord, that's kirtan. And every Sunday, at least every Sunday in the afternoon, all the temples, practically all the temples have the Sunday program which involves kirtan, which involves dancing. The temples that operate fully, the full program, they even have dancing early in the morning in Mangalati time. Mm. So that's transcendental. And we're calling on the Supreme Personality of Godhead's name. And this has not only an immediate effect, but it also has an effect towards the end of our lives. Because if we keep calling on Krishna's name, and even doing it in a wonderful way, like in Kirtan, where we get to sing and dance, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it helps us at the time of leaving the body to remember the mantra, but the mantra is Radha Krishna. Therefore, we call on name, Lord, we will remember him. Ajamil was like that in his situation, even though he was into sense gratification, as some of us were before we heard about Krishna consciousness. Ajamil, well, in his case, he was born in a Brahmin family, so he started off well. But then one day he was returning home and he saw a Sudani and a Sudra embrace, and the woman was a prostitute, so it didn't matter that her clothes were a little bit disheveled and part of her body was exposed. She didn't care about that. And of course, Jamil saw it, and unfortunately, that kicked up his lusty thinking and lusty desire. He came after the woman, later married her, divorced his wife, that is, will be good for Krishna consciousness in service to him. And he was with this prostitute for quite a while. Up to his 80s, he was with them. They had children by this prostitute. The last child, by the Lord's mercy, he named that child Narayan. This is what happens when we do service from our hearts initially, and even when complications coming in, the Maya takes over our minds. The Lord is still merciful to us. In this case, for Ajamil, he was very merciful. So that boy was born, Srila Prabhupada says, when Ajamil was 83. 83 years old. Now, 83 years old and make the wife pregnant. So he was still lusty, even at that age. And the boy grew up and became a very nice boy. And Ajamil made the boy, he was his son, of course, but he was his favorite in all his children. The other sons, obviously older. This one was the last one. And when he was leaving the body, the Jamadutas came to get him because he had lived a very horrible mode of passion and ignorance type life and disappointed his first wife on top of that. So that's an offense in itself. They came and got him, but as they were taking him away, as they were binding him, not taking him away, but binding him, he screamed Narayan for his son. But when he screamed Narayan, he remembered Narayan, what he really meant, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it was just a quick change of mind, thinking now about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as he thought that way, the Jamadutas were stopped by the Vishnudutas, the Lord's agents who came and basically saved, to cut a long story short, cut to the chase, they saved this poor man who had been involved in passion and ignorance for years. Jamil was saved, and he didn't die that day. But from that point on, he brought his mind back to the transcendental lifestyle. And he left his body later, a few years after that. But then he had put his mind on Krishna consciousness. I remember my spiritual master sometimes when he was giving initiation, the days he's going to initiate a set of devotees, he would give a lecture, and in that lecture, practically all the time he initiated them, at least when I was around when he was initiating devotees, he was telling them, all right, first, you got to consider this is something that you want to do, because he was telling devotees that, indirectly, that, of course, Maya is going to tempt you. And so you have to be careful. Mm? Maya is also, in the minds of other creatures created by Lord Brahma, who are in the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. So it gives them a second chance to think, you really want to do this, you have to commit yourself. This is not play. Mm. I haven't seen one person get up and leave the arena. So that's good. Everybody's credit. Anyone that wanted the initiation, they all stayed for it. But then those who are in attendance, the audience who are mostly devotees, he also would tell that we must rejoin the society. Now, rejoin society, and some of us, like personally, my mind, the kind of mind I have, but I haven't quit the society. So how do I rejoin something that I have not quit? Hmm? But this is what he meant. If there have been issues that we've been going through, issues that are challenging to our devotional life, hmm, as a preacher, as a guru, of course, but as a preacher at that time, he was telling us, make a vow, as these devotees are coming to make a vow to obey the regulated principles and chant a minimum of 16 rounds every day for the rest of their lives. You make a vow, you guys who are initiated, to improve your spiritual life. Whatever situations that you face that have been in the mode of passion and ignorance, that have been sabotaging the chance to go back to Godhead, make sure you fix that through prayer and also associating with devotees who are fixed up. Both of them should be there. There should be that prayer that comes out of desperation. Dear Lord, I have the chance to come to associate with you in the spiritual world, and my activities are ruining and sabotaging those plans. Please help me. Just say it in your own way. Hmm? Please help me. This is a wonderful chance. And now the way the situation is in the world, that more of the very, very, very great, or the greatest equipped militarily, those countries that are greatest equipped and are fighting, this place is becoming more and more and more dangerous. So that should remind us, not only one, this is not our home, but two, we're not going to get anything really good out of this place on a material level. So all we have is devotional life. Every aspect of devotional life has to be of good quality. So we have to bring our minds to that decision of living a better devotee life, even if you have a devotee life already, but a better devotee life. And that's what Bhakti Maharaj meant by rejoin. Hmm? Take the mind to a higher level of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada also said he wants pure devotees. He wants devotees to become pure, and it is possible to become pure. The advantage of becoming pure is that a pure devotee's preaching has great effect on the person that is being preached to. Of course, the one that's preaching will say, it's by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. But purity, the Prabhupada said also, is the force. And therefore, nobody should think that, oh, there are some people who are pure devotees. I'm just not a pure devotee. That may be true, but we should never think, I'm never going to become a pure devotee. That we should take out of our minds, because purity is there for everyone. And as we take the process seriously, Krishna will help us, he will protect us, and will also elevate us until we get to a very high level of purity. And then our hearts and minds would really, really get into service, and we do it like there's nothing else more important in life than devotional service. And that's the mentality of rejoining the society. That's three men by that. So in text 39, Brahma gave up, as the saying here, the beloved form of moonlight, and the Gandharvas gladly took possession of it. That shouldn't be surprising. Moon is a heavenly planet. Gandharvas are in the heavenly planets. And of course, things that are at that level, they would be interested in associating with that. So the Gandharvas um, and Vishwavasu, as it says here, took possession of it. Then, so Brahma was doing those, creating those who were in the heavenly planets, as well as those who were going to be in the lower planets. So in text 40, Brahma, the Lord Brahma, then from his sloth, sloth, sleepiness, slowness, ghosts and fiends. Fiends are evil spirits or demons, and ghosts are disembodied entities. Usually, there will be people who will be put in ghost bodies if they leave their bodies by their own will before the time they're supposed to leave. In other words, if they decide to take their lives, commit suicide, then the balance of time that they should have been on the earth, that they will have to be in a disembodied, you won't get any physical body. And it is difficult. You're not allowed to go anywhere but just roam around here. And usually in the dark, they try to pull pranks. And according to what's been explained to me also, sometimes when hearse or ambulances, blasting their horns like that on the road, that means there's some trouble that's happened to someone that's in there. The ghosts actually follow ambulances. That's also been reported because they are always attracted to things that are negative, things that are troublesome. So they're there then. Lord Brahma created them. And said Lord Brahma saw that they were already beginning to act in a mode of ignorance. They stood in front of Lord Brahma naked and their hair unkempt, all scattered. Sri Prabhupada says in the purport that they are the creation of Lord Brahma. It's not like something that people should imagine. They are actually true beings. They're not false. So, and they are meant for putting the conditioned soul into various miseries. The ghosts especially, they pull pranks. Sometimes some people leave unexpectedly, according to their estimate, unexpectedly. Like they're young and life is going well for them, and then all of a sudden there's an accident and it costs them their lives. They leave the physical body, and they leave the physical body. Sometimes it would be very confusing to them because the subtle body can see what's all around, it's all about feelings, and they begin to think, why is it that I try to speak to someone and everybody's ignoring me? In other words, they don't know that they actually died because it happened suddenly. That's one of the things. And they literally have to be told by another person on the other side, like another, disembodied entity, or depending on the person's life. If they live the life of piety, then of course there'll be someone in the mode of goodness on the other side, telling them that don't try to speak to people here now because you've left your body, and they'll never really respond to you. Not that they've been difficult or ignoring you, but they really can't hear you. Now, so the shock comes, oh, so this is death. Now, if the person has quite a bit of property and they were living what they call a wonderful sense gratification life, and now they find themselves, they cannot do that. They may return to their very nice house and angry about the fact that life will not be the same because I'm now on the other side. I'm considered dead. But then they want to be in their house still. And so they haunt the house because their desire is like that. Then they're going to that body, nobody will take them away to go on to their next life. And then they stay around because their desire at that time is to be around this. Nobody, if I can't enjoy my house, nobody else is going to enjoy the house. And so they haunt like that. Hmm. Of course, those are things that happen here in the material world. We're supposed to be living here, but not playing into those kind of things. But it's good to know so that it doesn't come surprising to us when some of the things we may experience. Hmm? So, in text 41, Lord Brahma's body produces all kinds of different bodies based on his mood. Even in anger, Lord Shiva came from his forehead, knitting his brows like that in anger. Lord Brahma's body is incredible. Mm. So there was a body that was formed from Lord Brahma's yawning, and the ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of it. That shouldn't be surprising because who is happy to yawn? So yawning can be put in the mode of ignorance category. But Lord Brahma's yawning also produced a body that these ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of. This, this is also drooling, Prabhupada mentions here. Drooling is the unintentional flow of saliva just outside the mouth. Sometimes when somebody sleeps and their head is tipped to the side like that, and there's saliva in the mouth, it starts coming out in one side of the lower side of the lip, depending on how they turn their heads. So this is news to me also, hearing that the ghosts and hobgoblins attack men who are impure because they're considered, from the drooling process that they become impure. Well, anybody that drools, it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it might happen, and a person drools, if they even wake up, and if they see that their pillow is slightly wet or there's some saliva coming on the side of the mouth, it's very embarrassing. So the person is thinking this is not good. But if it's not good, then it is in a mode of ignorance. No wonder the host and the ghosts and hobgoblins are interested in that situation. So leave it to Srimad Bhagavatam. Every little detail is discussed here. So that's unclean, of course. The state of drooling is definitely unclean. So ghosts could take advantage of that, which the Prabhupada is letting us know. In text 42, Satyas and Pitas, they are invisible forms of departed souls, and they're also created by Lord Brahma. So the translation is that recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, then Lord Brahma evolved from his own invisible form from his navel, the hosts of Satyas and Pitas. It's interesting that there's a correlation here that Lord Brahma himself was born from the navel of Gavadakshaya Vishnu, and then his own navel also came the Satyas and Pitas. So who are the Satyas? Well, Satyas are minor demigods living in the heavenly planets. But before we go on, there are two definitions of Satyas. There's one in the spiritual world and then one in the material world in the heavenly planets. So there are main demigods. Demigods that have given responsibilities for planets, take care of planets, or the major things that make the material world go on. So there's a god for the air, Vayu, there's a god for the sun, Surya, or Vivashwan, there's this like that for the water and for different major aspects that make the material world go on. And then there are others who live in the heavenly planets, but they don't have that type of high responsibility, like the Chandra for the moon and Surya, and they have. So they are considered minor demigods, and among them are the Satyas. So that's what is meant by minor demigods. But they all live in the heavenly planets. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 82, there's a part of the purport of Srila Prabhupada is describing. Now, Goloka, like Golok Vrindavan, is also presided over by the sadhyas. And sadhyas means those who are worshipped by great saints. But we just talked less than a minute ago about sadhyas living in the heavenly planets. And then there are sadhyas who are also in Golok, specifically Golok Vrindavan. So are they the same? Well, we will guess that the answer is no. And so Srila Prabhupada makes a distinction between the two. So there's sadhyas that are normal, ordinary demigods living in the heavenly planets, and then those that are in the spiritual world. Mm. The sadhyas in the spiritual world are Krishna's dearmost devotees. Nanda Maharaj is considered sadhya, therefore Mother Yashoda is. Mm. And they are worshipable. Even Brahma and the four Kumaras and Lord Shiva and Narada. Mm. So they try to emulate the spiritual discipline at the command of these sadhyas. So, of course, they have very wonderful relationships with Lord Krishna. And of course, mentioned Nanda, so he's in the parental relationship, Vasalya, Ras. And so they are very, considered very, very high, but then they also have the same name describing them, sadhyas. Mm. So sadhya itself is derived from the verb to accomplish. So the cowherd men and women are considered sadhyas because they're able to accomplish the situation of bringing Krishna under their control, quote unquote control, by the unique ecstatic sentiments that they have for him. So that's one going deeper into the word sadhya. So sadhyas, that means the gopis also qualify as sadhyas. And of course, they are headed by Sri Radharani, Krishna's dearest devotees, and he is the topmost of the dearest devotees, the gopis. So they are the most important residents of Golok. And the sadhyas, let's say one difference. Sadhyas spelled with a capital S as the sadhyas in the spiritual world, and sadhyas with the low S, those are the ones in the heavenly planets. So a little distinction is made like that. So these ordinary sadhyas, like when they have the celestial bodies, the material world, they can't travel to Vaikuntha. They cannot. So these sadhyas, if they can't travel to the Vaikuntha planets, they certainly cannot reach Goloka. And so their point of being protectors in the spiritual world is out of the question. They are just here in the material world. So those are the difference. So sadhyas sometimes are used as an ordinary demigods in the higher planetary systems, and sadhyas sometimes the same term can be used even for those in great relationships with the Lord in the spiritual world. So in this particular last text, text 42, Pitas were also mentioned. So who are Pitas? They are forefathers. And some people worship Pitas for a number of reasons. Forefathers or ancestors. They may worship for protection and guidance, and ancestors because they believe that they can protect family members from misfortunes, and for that reason, people offer pujas to them for protection and guidance in that way. Or they are intercessors, meaning that in some traditions, they are, Pitas are considered to have a direct line to the divine power. And they act as agents of blessing, or sometimes the other way, of cursing. Sometimes Pitas can be used for cursing also, for requests for cursing. Sometimes people worship ancestors because they want to give them gratitude and respect. Mm. And that shows love and respect for the lives of those predecessors. When the people who are worshiping them, think, they worship in that particular mentality, because then they say the gratitude, they offer gratitude and respect them because, of course, they are forefathers. So it's through that line that the person that's worshiping came from. Generations down are worshiping the forefathers out of respect because they built the family foundation. So that's also another reason that ancestors are worshipped. Now, some people also believe that ancestors can be worshipped for spiritual continuity. They believe that, and that's the one part of it that makes them worship actually is true. They believe that death is not the end, but it's a transition that allows the ancestors to continue their existence and therefore be able to care for their descendants. So this is all beliefs now that people have. And from those beliefs that they worship these ancestors. Now, for devotees, it's already said Chanti Deva Vata Deva, which is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 25. Janti Deva Vata Devan, Pitri Janti Pitri Vataha. Bhutam Janti Bhuteja, Mat Janti Mat Jaju, Jagyo Pimam. Srila Prabhupada quotes it quite a bit. What is the meaning? Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors that we just talked about will go to the ancestors where they are. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship Krishna will go to Krishna Loka and live with them. So, yeah, the planets of the forefathers are there. You can look in the Bhagavatam. Tells about specific yagyas and the process to worship them. This is the Kamakandik side of the fruitive activity side of the Vedas that Vyasadeva compiled. And then after that, he was unhappy that he compiled those kind of things until Narada Muni helped him. So one can go into the ghostly planets. There is a high chance that a person will become a yaksha or rakshaksha or pishchacha. And people who worship pishachas are the ones that are involved in black arts, or what they call black magic. So some people do that. Unfortunately, some people are tricked into thinking that the black arts or black magic is actually spirituality. As there were some people who actually thought that being in a nudist camp was also a way to involve ourselves spiritually. Until Srila Prabhupada actually went to some of those camps and preached to them and changed their minds, and some of them became devotees. So people are sometimes misled with these kinds of worship, especially since there's some powers that the forefathers sometimes give, or protections that are unusual that they get. And so therefore they just become, oh yes, maybe I stay with this, my life is going to be more or it'd be better than the way it is. But then actually you go to a lower planet after that if you deal with these kinds of pitas who are in that kind of mentality. So Srila Prabhupada has already told us in our conclusion, no devotee should fall for the worship that takes one to the forefathers or even other heavenly planets, because that is not the end of the story. We're still in the material world. That means the suffering we're going to go through. So even impersonalists who crave the Brahma Jyoti, wanting to go into the effulgence of the Lord, they still wind up falling into this earth planet because there is no activity there. And the soul doesn't even expand into its full form like it does when a person goes to the spiritual world. In the Brahma Jyoti, the soul is still atomic in size, like it is now in our hearts. So it's not worth it to go there and then come back to the Earth planet. So that's just delaying time. It's not worth it. So what you want, do. Chant the holy name of Lord, but not just chant the holy name of the Lord. Chant it. The mood should be attentive chanting and also being in a humble state of mind. In a humble state of mind. That will surely send the person who does that back home, back to Godhead. So yes, Bhagavatam informs us of so many aspects. And in Lord Brahma's creation, even some of these lower entities in terms of their thinking, were trying to lust after Lord Brahma. Then he had to play different things. He like convert literally the twilight into a form of woman so that their lust will be directed towards that. And in that sense, leave him alone. Hmm. So yeah, all kinds of intricacies or intrigues, I should say, happen in this material world. It's not worth it for us to say now there's hot war. Cold War is when people compete for coming up with weapons that outdo the other weapons that are being produced. But a hot war is when they are being used and people are actually involved. And in Kali Yuga, the fighting is not like the Kurukshetra war that you meet in a particular arena and the people are totally protected and the soldiers are the ones that are fighting. And even in the evening, when the conch shell is blown and everything is stopped, that those who are dead or injured, they get help, either in cremation or to be treated for their wounds. And in that sense, everybody that is hurt gets some kind of treatment. And the soldiers help each other in taking dead bodies to cremate them. Now it's got to the point where in the middle of the night, the siren goes off and people have to just stop, get up, and get out into bomb shelters because a missile is coming. And it is coming to a neighborhood where people are. So obviously this Kali Yuga is going to get worse and worse and worse. But this place is not worth staying. We have to take our devotional life seriously so we can get out of here. So I'll stop here and we'll just have some comments. You can unmute yourself and share. This is Lord Brahma's the description here in Bhagavatam about the creation of those who are pious musicians in the heavenly planets, dancers in the heavenly planets, mostly living the mode of goodness life, and then of course those who are ghosts and hobgoblins and fiends and evil spirits in lower planets, and they even tried to come at Lord Brahma. So in both aspects are there in this material world. It's not worth it being here. Ultimately, we have to prepare to go home. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Like you were saying, Srimad Bhagavatam has everything covered. This is, of course, a topic that is mind-boggling, to say the least. But one of the things you said was that some of these things are beliefs. So, like at least those of us who have come from India, we have been taught to do the yearly shrads, to remember to, So I'm just trying to understand in what spirit were we doing it. When my father passed away, when my father-in-law passed away, some things I have understood that we do it in a very ritualistic way without understanding why we do it. And now I understand the process, or at least some of the rituals, why we do those rituals. But still, as devotees, how to handle that? Because I feel at least for me, I'm straddling two worlds. as a devotee, I'm hearing and understanding what the right process is. But then there is the other foot that has been doing things because we were taught to do it that way.
Yeah.
And I understand that we did those without understanding, but I'm just trying to figure out how to, because you use the word, it is a belief that we, about when you were talking about Pitraloka and, um, so
The
is
forefathers,
it
yeah.
so is it that we don't know for sure? Is that what a belief is?
Well, the slogan that I quoted said that those who are connecting with forefathers while they're here, in whatever pujas that they do, they'll go to the planet of the forefathers. And so, since devotees don't really want to go to the planet of what we want to go back to the spiritual world, it doesn't help us to actually be doing the things that we were doing, even though at the first time when we were younger and we were, our lives were influenced by the elders based on the tradition of the family. mm, we were doing those things. But if you look at it, our life has changed quite a bit. The family members were not chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We have taken on, or the family members most likely were not obeying all four regulator principles, if at all. If they were obeying even some of them, doubtful. Some maybe some people were not taking intoxication as possible. Some people were not being gambling. But the thing is, they were living life based on traditions that have been passed down. And usually what the family, one generation tells the other generation, the lower generation, is this is how we do things. So you just do. This is how we do things. I respect my mother, which is the generation before the generation that's teaching you, that is the grandparents. Grandparents taught me as a child, and what we obeyed them, therefore, this is what we do. And therefore, so now I'm a parent, you're my child, and this is what we do, and we maintain that. But Sita Papa never went by the maintenance of the way traditions have been kept. Sita Papa was interested, through his mercy, how to get us to go back to the spiritual world. I have to apologize if you hear some noise in the background. My room is next to a hallway. Some people are going out through there, so I apologize if you hear any background noise. But that is so. In short, since we know what Srila Prabhupada taught us and where it takes us to, we have to, in our own ways, take a stand against those things that we have been practicing. Take a stand against those things that we've been practicing that we know won't take us back to the spiritual world, and include in our lives the things we know will take us back to the spiritual world. We have to. Now, how we deal with the situations about the feelings from our family members, yeah, that becomes a situation that sometimes it's a little troublesome. And many of us have gone through situations where we had to tell our family members, in so many words, I'm not going to do that anymore. What you call, family tradition we have to keep up with. I'm not going to do that anymore. Sometimes the family traditions are such that when there's a death in the family, there will be alcohol that's provided in the program for honoring the person who's dead soul. They involve all of that in there. But the body's not going to be drinking that stuff because there's no intoxication in our lives. So we have to take advantage. And the one thing that we have to remember, though, is that when we live at a higher level compared to some of the family members and what they've been taught to do and what they want to continue doing, they get benefit from our lifestyle. They get indirect benefit. When a devotee is present in a life and in a family, and that family is practicing non-devotional thing, but that particular person is, even though a member of the family is a devotee and practicing bhakti, if that devotee is successful in going back to the spiritual world, those family members will also be put on the path back to the spiritual world. if not immediately in their lives, the next life, Krishna would arrange for them to be born as human beings. Krishna would also arrange for them to come into contact with devotees to start their path back to Godhead. That is the advantage of a devotee being born, even if it's a family of non-devotees that they're born into. So knowing that that is the case, as a devotee, we should really put our foot down and do it either bluntly or uh, whatever way, depending on, the moods of your own family members. Um, Tactfully, but the result should be the same. The result should be, I'm going to live a devotee life because it's actually an advantage to you, the family members, even if you don't know it, that Krishna will lead you back to the spiritual world only because I'm taking devotion serious, bhakti seriously. So with that kind of reasoning, we shouldn't be apologizing to anyone who's just making us do things that are anti-devotional life just for family tradition. Mm. That is a challenge. We can pray to our spiritual masters as to how to go about that. Mm. Sometimes it may mean that some devoted family members may break off from us, but still they have the advantage of, if we're fortunate to go back, to be allowed to go back to the spiritual world, even if they broke off from us, still they'll get the mercy of being changed into, the mentality into the bodies, even animal bodies and bird bodies, all, if they were supposed to go to that due to moral ignorance, all of that gets removed by the mercy of the Lord's agent because of the devotee who was in their family and they took devotion life seriously. So the point we're making is, even if they don't understand us, that we didn't take part in the family tradition, it is to their advantage that we remain devotees. Because going back to the spiritual world, they will eventually also come back to the spiritual world rather than remain here lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So because to the advantage, we shouldn't feel too shy to kind of play into their family traditions that are, if it's in the mode of ignorance and passion. It's not worth it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So I do understand that part, the
Yeah.
point, the way the rituals are explained is that it is to help them. I remember once Vishnugada Prabhu gave class after his father passed away, and he
Yeah.
was saying that the ritual is so that we help the soul traverse, cross the Vaitarini, and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
so now it's not. Prabhupada has convinced me, even if I don't understand, I know I should follow him because
Mm-hmm.
I accept that authority. I accept
Yeah.
that, I'm just behind in understanding, but what
Mm-hmm.
he has asked us to do is the right thing to do, and that is
Yeah.
what is going to help me do what I am supposed to do. My duty is to
Yeah.
be a devotee of Krishna, and so that part I understand. But then the part that my responsibility to help another soul also, like you were saying, that if I remain a devotee, it helps them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Ultimately,
so,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so in that context, where do these rituals fall? And how are we to handle
Deal with
those
it.
rituals?
Yeah.
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, the point about having alcohol to help, that doesn't, those are not the conflicts that we have, because it's just those rituals, and the rituals are
Yeah.
being explained as a process to help that soul, uh, and as a child, that's the responsibility.
Yeah. Um, it's delicate for
Yeah.
one, because from the reasons that are given for doing some of those rituals, it seems to be reasons at the very least in the mode of goodness.
Mm,
um, the Lord knows. The Lord
mm,
means the Lord in the heart knows our situation. Mm. And sometimes that's why the term is used in devotee life: time, place, and circumstance.
mm,
If a person is put in a situation where they have to um, be part of this ritual meant for good reason, as the family members understand the protection, the guidance, and so on, for that reason they're doing it. Even if we take part, we can always silently chant the Hare Krishna mantra in our minds. And the Lord already knows that we're put in a situation where we have to kind of follow tradition, tradition, not that we really want to follow, but sometimes without doing it raises more trouble with the rest of the family members. And some people, our own moods are there. There's some people who just cut off totally and say, well, whatever happens to the family, they didn't understand me. But, in the end, my activities will benefit them. And then there are some too they find themselves, some devotees find themselves in a situation where it's not so easy to break off families. There are people who are married, literally married to non-devotees. What do you do then? So we still practice our devotional life as best that we can. Take more association of devotees so that we can have our minds in the right place and not get swayed into other material things. And when it comes to the times that those rituals are being performed, you just chant like crazy in your mind. I think it's the month that therefore the mind won't be sold to or transferred to that so much. So you're just there. You're basically showing up, but your mentality is a different thing altogether. Now the good thing is the activities, the rituals don't happen every day. So you just go do one, and then for a long time you don't have to be doing it. If you're caught in a situation where it's like people say, this is what we do every day, well, then you have to get out of there. You cannot stay. Yeah, you can't. Our devotee life is what we do every day, not something else. So that gets imposed on us. Then that's the time you have to put your foot down and say, I'm not going to be part of this. But if it's a once a time, place, and circumstance, yeah, you just you don't give your minds to them. You give your minds to the Hare Krishna mantra and then go through and get out of there because you're not going to deal with it for a long time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. It's delicate, but we're in a material world. What to do? Sometimes.
One of the things I have understood as devotees is consciousness. That word consciousness, we just use it, but then even yesterday, Mother Devaki, she gave a class, and it's looking inward and doing the work inward, inside, not what's on the outside. Is whether it is humility, whether it is conquering envy, whether it is following these rituals, the work has to be done internally. And I think for that, like you said, and I can feel it, is sadhu sangha. The more wherever you associate, that influences you, even
Very
while you are
much.
fighting it. So sadhu sangha, and we have to do all we can to make sure that we have opportunities to
Unfortunately,
associate.
it's like that in the material world. But no, the time, place, and circumstance, the reason why that term is there is just tell us that the Lord knows that sometimes we will be put in a bind and have to deal with situations that we don't like so much. But at least if it's in the mode of goodness or the intention is in the mode of goodness, so then you go through it. But as far as the details of the ritual, you don't really play into it much. You just, go through the motions, but your mind is on the Hare Krishna mantra the whole time. And this is how you get out of that. At least to get the mercy of the Lord.
Sorry for taking so much time. If anybody else has any...
Yeah, I think there's someone else that's going to speak.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I missed the class.
Today
is the first day I missed the class.
Oh.
I'm really
it's been
sorry.
recorded.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
That's mine, Mataji. Oh, gosh,
if anybody else has questions or comments, please...
you can unmute yourself, Mother Vinyavali, were you going to say something? Or you just simply talked
I
about
didn't hear anything today. I was so... I couldn't, I don't know, first time I missed the class. But I had to listen to YouTube,
Yeah.
recorded one.
Yeah, so you go up to the recording of it later, and then you can listen to
Thank you, Prabhu. I'm sorry.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Any other comments or questions? If not, then thank you very much for allowing me to do the service. And now